Imagine a country trying to fight religious extremism. Elections are around the bend, and the government of the day is trying to hold elections by keeping religious fundamentalists at bay. Now, there is this religious fundamentalist force that is trying to fight elections. The government doesn't want that. The highest court of the country, has barred this particular association from fighting elections. In comes America and says that no, talks should be held with everybody before the polls, including this religious fundamentalist force. Impossible? Not quite, because this is exactly what America is doing in Bangladesh. Bangladesh will go to polls on January 7th next year, and the Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami has been barred by the Bangladesh Supreme Court from fighting elections. But if reports in Bangladeshi media are to be believed, the first secretary of the American embassy in Dhaka, Mr. Matthew Bay, has been holding talks with a senior Jamaat leader. This, of course, has rattled the Sheikh Hasina government, which is trying to hold elections by keeping Jamaat out of the electoral fray. Now, why is America doing this? Side by side, there are protests against the Sheikh Hasina government, protests by the Jamaat and also by the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is the largest opposition party in Bangladesh. Some of these protests have turned violent. There have been attacks on journalists, there have been arson, there have been killings even of political workers on both sides. Now, some people are saying that these protests on the streets remind them of the Arab Spring. What was the Arab Spring? A little more than a decade ago, across the Arab world, people took to the streets against the regimes that were in power. The protests turned violent, and one by one, across Arab countries, regimes were replaced, rulers toppled. Is this what's happening in Bangladesh? I would say no. Because yes, there are violent protests on the streets, but most of these protests are by opposition political workers. Bangladesh has not reached a situation yet where the common citizen has come out against the ruling dispensation on the streets in violent protests. So it's not quite Arab Spring in Bangladesh. So what is America doing? One of the reasons that are cited by foreign policy wonks and political journalists in Bangladesh is that America is not happy with Sheikh Hasina talking to China. That is why America has been pushing the Sheikh Hasina government. Before this, America has threatened visa restrictions if free and fair elections are not held in Bangladesh. America has constantly questioned Hasina on a variety of fronts. But America talking to Jamaat does not make sense. Because if free and fair elections in Bangladesh is what America is pushing the Hasina government for, then including the Jamaat in this equation does not make sense. Because the Jamaat stands against the very idea of democracy. Please remember that the Jamaat is the same force which in its earlier avatar as Jamaat-e-Islami Pakistan did not want the formation of Bangladesh in the first place. And in its new avatar as Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami, the Jamaat has been accused and held guilty of atrocities against minorities, of openly calling for Sharia law in Bangladesh. So there is no Arab Spring for now in Bangladesh, and one can only hope that the January 7 elections in the country are free and fair.